Hey guys, this is Jordan Clemens from Advancing Guitar at www.advancingguitar.blogspot.com. I'm just hanging out at my teaching studio today, and I wanted to record a quick video to show you guys this arpeggio warm-up that I do. It's a fantastic exercise. Might be a little difficult if you're kind of new to arpeggios, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try this, or even to learn it in little chunks and slowly put it together. What I just played for you, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to slow down and talk about a little bit in this video because this is it. It's a warm-up exercise that encompasses all 12 minor chords, minor triads that I'm arpeggiating up and down the neck, kind of moving fluidly across the fretboard. So it starts off on E minor. There were no 7s or 9s or 11s, 13s, anything fancy like that, no upper extensions. These are all basic minor triads. So it starts on E minor, E, G, B, and we start on the low 6th string, the E note. And we're going to play in 8th notes up for an entire measure, staying in this one position of the neck. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That puts us on the 3rd fret 1st string, which is our G note. To start the next measure, measure 2, we're going to move up to the next available note in our arpeggio for the downbeat, which E, G, B, that B note would be on the 7th fret 1st string. So we're going to jump up to the 7th fret. Now that we're in a new position, we're going to stay here and descend down the E minor arpeggio as long as we can until we have no choice but to descend down the 6th string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. If this is difficult for you, this in and of itself is a fantastic exercise, just these two shapes. You can put it on loop and just practice it over and over. You may even need to break these apart into 2 separate things. Okay, depending on how advanced you already are with your arpeggio work, you can treat these as 2 separate things, put them back together, and then eventually, once you're comfortable, we can put it back into the whole thing, which I'm about to continue talking about. If you're already comfortable with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the E minor chord, the triad, and we're going to move it down in fifths. If you're already comfortable with the idea of the circle of fifths, this will make sense. And if you're not, you might need to do a little bit of reading and thinking about what I'm talking about in order for this to make sense. But essentially, we're going to take that E note and move it down in fifths. And what's going to happen is it's going to cycle through a bunch of different chords, and eventually it's going to come back to the E note, the E triad. And it's in that process going to hit all 12 keys. So by doing it this way, we're going to actually play every minor triad arpeggiated across the neck that we have. So after E, down a fifth gives us A minor. If you're brand new at triads and arpeggios, I would recommend trying these all in just root position for a while. Root position meaning starting on the root note, on A if we're in A minor, or E if we're in E minor, D if we're in D minor. If you've already spent a little bit of time doing that, then I want you to do it the way I did it in this exercise, which is to start on the lowest pitch note that we have on the guitar that's also in the triad. So the A triad is A, C, E. That E note, again, is our open 6th string, which is the lowest pitch note we have on the guitar. So we're going to start the A minor triad on an E note, which for those of you who are familiar with, that's our 2nd version A minor triad. And again, up in 8th notes for a measure, down in 8th notes for a measure. Down a fifth from the A triad is D minor. Again, we don't want to just start on the D note unless we're kind of brand new at this. So the D minor triad is D, F, A. The The lowest pitch note we have on the guitar that's also in the triad is F. Okay, that's our first fret, 6th string. So this is like a D minor first inversion triad. The reason we want to do this is because we want to know where all of our possible notes are. To be able to play a triad in root position is great, but to see the guitar, to see all the possible notes on the guitar for any given chord is a really powerful way of navigating the fretboard. It really opens a lot of doors up. So D minor would be after D would be G, and then C, F, B flat, E flat, so forth and so on until we get back to E. You will probably find that some of these chords are much more comfortable and some of these chords are much less comfortable than the other ones. And when I say comfortable, what I mean is that you might be able to play E minor really easily and fluidly, but you might not be able to play D flat minor really fluidly. That's totally normal, and just recognize that that's the case. And if you find that D flat is really difficult, then just single D flat out and just work. Just work on D flat for a while. Okay, once you can get through all of these, we have the complete exercise that I played at the beginning. That's actually only 25% of the full exercise. Those are your minor triads. We have 4 different types of triads. We have minor, major, diminished, and augmented. If you're only looking to play rock music, blues, funk, styles of music like that, major and minor are going to be the bulk of where you get your value from with this exercise. But if you're looking to do jazz or classical or even some kind of like experimental thing where you want more types of sounds available to you, you definitely want to spend some time to get the diminished and augmented triads down, because there's just some beautiful sounds within diminished and augmented. They're not going to be as necessary if you're just trying to do, you know, Americana or rock and roll or some kind of style like that, but they're definitely worth checking out if you want to dig a little deeper and see what kind of sounds are out there. You might think that you only like basic rock and roll, major and minor stuff, but with a little bit of looking around, you might find that diminished or augmented really kind of strikes a chord with you, no pun intended. So check them out even if you don't think that you need or want them. See what they sound like. You might surprise yourself. So once you can do minor, then try major. Once you can do major, then have a look at augmented and diminished. One thing to keep in mind is that a lot of times when I show my students triads, there's the innate urge to jump past them and move into really advanced, complicated chords. Triads are such a simple idea that most people think that once they spend a week or 2 on them, that they get it. And to some degree that's kind of true, but the simplicity of them should not make you jump past them too quickly, because there's an enormous amount of mileage you can get just out of basic triads, and if you haven't looked at them and really created a strong foundation, then moving on to 7 chords or 9 chords or anything with upper extensions is going to be a little premature. A really good example of how much use you can get out of it is that you can mix and match triads with root notes. So if you have only done minor triads, you can actually play in a lot of different situations just with minor triads. So let's say you take the A flat minor triad from this exercise. We'll call it G sharp. It sounds the same, it's just a different name. If you superimpose that G sharp minor triad over, let's say, an E root note, get an E major 7 chord. You're not playing the root note. There's no E note in the A flat or G sharp triad, but you're playing the 3, 5, and major 7. So you can get some really great sounds just out of basic triads. So it's well worth the time to check them out and get comfortable with them. I hope this video was helpful. There is a lesson that goes along with it on my blog at Advancing Guitar. So I'm going to post a link to it underneath this video in the info. If you have a hard time following what I'm talking about, or if you want to see the triads spelt out in the order that I do them in, definitely go to the blog and check it out. If you have questions or comments, please post them on the blog. And thanks for watching. See you guys soon.